I'm Vin.
Wait, babe, I didn't tap on you.
I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
That's Sparky.
And Salty.
Shout out to the big homie, Ron, for the first ever debate-scission.
If anybody's wondering, we tried to do that discussion on YouTube, but for whatever reason, the friggin' internet wouldn't work on YouTube. Just on YouTube. So we moved it to Facebook, and we were able to do it, no problem.
YouTube is like really against us. We generate a ton
Parental warning
of time to YouTube, and they always find some way to fuck with us. But,
yeah, I know. I mean, we don't even cost them any money for anything.
Yeah, we've made them millions of dollars.
Millions of dollars. I don't believe so. But anyway. So we're doing Disturbed, a song called Prayer.
Uh-huh.
So.
Yeah, I was never really a big Disturbed fan.
Is this going to be the same guy that sang the last one?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's not one of those songs though.
It's not good?
Well, I mean, I wasn't a big Disturbed fan at the time.
Well.
Korn came out with Untouchables when this record came out, so I was more focused on Korn.
Fine. I'm ready for this.
Not
I want
really
to hear
Disturbed.
some good. I hope it's good. I'm really excited about this.
All right, let's do it.
Okay.
Ready? Do we say the name of the song?
Yeah, Prayer.
Oh, okay.
Go. Turn that up.
Another dream that will never come true, just a compliment to sorrow. Another life that I'm taking from you, I give to an arm to your pain and suffering.
Yes. 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 We need to go to one of these concerts. I really liked it. I don't know what we were singing about. I mean, I have my own story, but I really like this. Did you like it?
This is the Sound of Silence guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
But
an
this
original,
is a totally different way of singing too.
Well, no, this is an original song of theirs.
Yeah. Whew, I like this. Did you like it? You didn't really like it?
No.
Can you play that on the guitar?
It was. You can play that on guitar.
So you can play it.
Dun, 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 dun,
Show me
drop
later.
beat. Oh,
What?
this may have its advantages.
Inshallah.
Yeah, this is a pretty basic song on guitar, but what did you like about it?
I like the beat of it. I like the sound of the dun, 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 like that. I don't know. I can't repeat it. Like, but I like that. I like the sound of his voice. I like when they like sing. I don't even know if it's him singing with himself and they put it together and that goes.
Yeah, they just
like,
layered it.
Yeah, I really like the sound of that.
Post-production.
My sister would love the sound of this song.
Really?
Yes, she loves that like that layery sound. But I don't know if she likes that hard sound in there with it. But I don't know. And I don't know what we were singing about though.
Let me enlighten you. This is the way I pray.
Yeah, for what it meant to me
The
was
song is called Prayer.
prayer. Yeah.
What
For
do you
me,
got?
it was just, you know, like obviously everybody knows I grew up in a Christian home, and there was certain ways that you pray. Not like you have to like cross your hands and whatever. Actually, we did. When we were in Sunday school, they would say, "Okay, everybody, fold your hands and bow your head." And everybody kind of thought that that was the established way of praying. But I honestly think it was just a way for the teacher to kind of control the room so it wasn't so chaotic because we were kids. But like, I always was confused by that because I was like, yeah, but because I was like, the devil I think is down there and God's up there, so why am I looking at the devil when I'm praying? And I never understood that. And I remember telling my mom, she was like, I always thought the same thing. So then after that, I put my head up, but then the teacher said, "Sorry, put your head down." And I was like, but I'm praying toward God and God's up there. She said, "Sorry, put your head down."
You should have told her John 17 verse 1.
I didn't know it was John 17:1.
After Jesus said this, he looked toward heaven and
Right.
prayed.
Right. I should have said something. No, she's
Why are
the
you looking
teacher.
down at Shaitan?
Yeah,
I think
she's a teacher.
Muslims do
What
this.
can you do, you know? You're just a little kid.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I like the way the Muslims do it. Hands open
Yeah.
up to Allah. That's
Yeah.
good. They're expecting to receive.
Yep.
Not like this, with your hands
Yeah.
closed and then you're looking down. You look like
Yeah.
a karate person.
Eyes
Hi-yah!
closed, hands folded,
Okay,
head
so
bowed.
prayer.
So yeah, so it was like, let me enlighten you. This is the way I pray. You know, not just the, you know, being a kid and wanting to look up when I pray, but also hitting that point in my Christianity because, I mean, you know, I never really prayed completely authentic prayers. They were always happy prayers. I always wanted to come to God with a good attitude. So if I was upset about something, yeah, if I was upset about something. But I was like that with everybody. Nobody really got the authentic side of me. Poor Vinny here, though, he gets my authentic side. I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm so mad right now. And he's like, okay, you know, he'll listen to me out and stuff like that, hear me out. Anyway, so, but
Because God
you're-
wouldn't hear you out. You got to come to God with a good attitude.
No, but I did that with everybody. Not
Right.
just God, but everybody. And then, I don't know, I guess being around you, like, I remember you were, like, talking about prayer and talking about, you know, the things that Job said to God. And then I was like, yeah, that is kind of weird, the way he's talking to God. And then the way that Cain was talking to God. Just different interactions that people in the Bible had with God that I never really realized how raw they were being with God. And so after that, and I think I've said this before on our show, like after that, like I kind of like, I remember the first time that I was in the car, church was going on, you know, and everybody was doing their thing. And I just felt like, you know what? This is not right now what I need. Like I need to just go and just be completely raw with God. And so I went alone in my car, and that was the first time that I said fuck in a prayer. First time. But you know what? I kind of felt a little bit better because I felt like, well, for once in my life, I'm being honest with God, who knows my heart anyway. So, yeah, so when he said, let me enlighten you, this is the way I pray, it was just like, you know, like this is me, and that's what God wants anyway. He doesn't want all this fake. People always say, and I guess we must teach that because people all over the place are always saying, well, I don't know what to say to God. Can you just pray this for me? Like hundreds of times I've had people say that to me. So I'm like, okay, we're obviously not teaching it well because you can talk, right? You speak. or you think, even if you can't, if somebody can't speak, they think, so think your prayer, you know what I mean? Like,
You used to judge me for that stuff. Remember this time?
what didn't I judge you
I was
for?
telling you, like, I was feeling like God was telling me to go talk to those people.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, you always
I
have
could
me.
never believe you said that.
Yeah. I was like, you always have me do it. Go have somebody else do it.
I was like, first of all, you sounded like a spoiled child. I could not believe that God was telling you to go talk to this homeless person. You were like, no. I couldn't even believe it. I was like so surprised. But then it all worked itself out.
Yeah, it did. It did. It was actually a very important discussion.
Oh, I know.
That has had these giant ramifications.
Giant.
Like major, massive ramifications that were just unbelievable.
Yep.
Clearly a divine appointment.
Obviously.
But yeah, at that moment I was like, no. And I was upset because I felt like, there's a
Why
bunch
are you
of...
always asking me to do this?
Yeah, there's a bunch of people in the city like, I'm good. I've had enough. I've done my time. Leave me be. I think I said something like that. And then you were judging me for it.
I was, because I was like, who says that to God? Who tells God no?
Well, a lot of people tell God no. They're just dishonest about it.
Well, yeah. Yeah. I'm just not gonna... Yeah. I wouldn't come right out and say no. You know what? It's funny because there's actually a story in the Bible of these two sons, and the father comes to the first one. He's like, it's time, like, to bring in the harvest. And the son's like, oh yeah, I mean, I'm paraphrasing here. He's basically like, oh yeah, Dad, cool, like, I'm gonna be there. I'll be right over. Then he goes to the second son, and the son's like, basically like, F you. Like,
No, I'm not gonna
do that. And the father goes back, and the first son that was like, yeah, Dad, he never shows up. But the second son, he's like, all right, and he goes and he helps his dad bring in the harvest. What was the ending to that story anyway?
And Jesus said, which son did the right thing? And obviously...
Well, it's the one that came to actually help his dad.
Right. So that was me. I said no.
I know.
And then I somehow ended up in the middle of the street. Anyway. Another dream that will never come true, just to complement your sorrow. So I think it's like the belief in God is like some dream.
Oh.
And then, it's complements your sorrow. Look, another life I've taken from you, a gift to add on to your pain and suffering.
Yeah.
So it's like God, I think God is talking here. And it's a very cynical...
Oh, I thought somebody, like, passed away that he was...
No,
It was very special to him.
I'm just probably, but I'm letting the term dictate the title dictate the song, because it's another life I've taken from you, a gift to add on to your pain and suffering.
Yeah.
So another dream that will never come true, to complement your sorrow. Another life I've taken from you, a gift to add to your pain and suffering.
That sounds like God is saying that to him. Like he's seeing that that's how God is talking to him.
Right. He has a cynical idea of what God is. So if God were to speak, this is how he would speak to you.
Right.
Here's another life I've taken you. A gift to add on to your pain and suffering. Right? Another truth you can never believe has crippled you completely. All the cries you're beginning to hear, trapped in your mind, and the sound is deafening. Mm-hmm. So God is like, hey, here's a truth.
Yeah.
You can't really believe.
Yeah.
Like, it's people like, I want to believe in God, but I can't. Mm-hmm. And then you're crippled by it.
Yep.
Because all your life people are telling you, this is the truth, this is the truth, this is the truth. But then you have all this doubt and disbelief, so now you're crippled between the two, and then boom. And now you get introduced to human suffering. Right? And like, and the older and older you get, and the more you come into that reality, the more difficult it gets. Like your gap between, you start off with like a seed of doubt when you're young, and then the seed gets watered by all the evil shit that happens to the world, and 2002, so 9/11, right?
Yep.
This is around 9/11, and we were still definitely feeling the effects of 9/11. So, it would definitely be pertinent. And then so then he responds by saying, let me enlighten you. This is the way that I pray. He's speaking to God. And then he says, living just isn't hard enough. Burn me alive inside. Living my life's not hard enough. Taking everything away.
So he's being raw with God.
Right. He's saying, it's not hard enough to just live in this fucked up planet. You gotta
burn me inside.
You gotta take everything from me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that you have people in the Bible that say that to God. Job.
He said, what? It would have been better if you should have just shut up my mother's womb so I would have never been born and I would have never seen the light of day.
And he said he wished he was born, stillborn.
Right.
And he cursed the day that he was born.
And the other guy said basically like, God, turn away from me so I can have a little peace in my life.
Yeah, in the Psalms. He said, turn away from me so I could have a one day where I'm smiling, basically.
Believe it. I can't believe people are that wrong with God. It's so crazy to me.
I can't believe he let that in the Bible.
Yeah, but that's like I said when we were doing that that Facebook discussion.
Yeah.
Like it's not all the actual literal words of God, but it's that the Bible is filled with experiences and things that God wants to explain to us and tell us. And so he's going to leave that in there because he knows in the human experience, people are going to feel like that when they say, like some people will be like, oh, bad shit comes in threes, when bad thing happens and then another bad thing. When it rains, it pours. Like there's all these sayings because bad stuff happens to all of us. We all have to go through stuff. Jordan Peterson was saying, remember last night we were listening to that? He said, something about your miserable life.
Your miserable life, yeah.
Like, everybody's gonna go through stuff.
And then Joe Rogan's like, why do you keep saying miserable life? A lot of us have happy lives. What the fuck is wrong with you? And Peterson's like, well...
over the course of your entire life, misery is gonna come to you.
Right, and whatever the theory is about life, it has to work in the worst possible scenario.
Exactly.
So, whatever your theology of prayer is, it has to work in the worst possible scenario.
Yeah.
So if you have a theology of prayer that you always have to come to God with the right attitude, then it's wrong.
Right.
Because that doesn't work in real life.
No, and then God knew that, and that's why he puts in those verses like that, so we understand, hey, this is normal to your human existence, that you would have these frustrations or these feelings, and it's good and right to convey them to God.
Look at this shit. Another nightmare about to come true will manifest tomorrow. You think about 9/11?
Yeah.
So like, if you're an omniscient being and you know that shit's gonna happen the next day. Another love that I've taken from you, lost in time on the edge of suffering. So think about it, like on 9/10, there were about 3,000 people that were on the edge of the fucking worst day of their life, had no fucking clue, but God knew.
I know. I always think this is weird, but remember the other day, I almost posted this so you guys could laugh at me, because the thing was recording for whatever reason, I don't even know. And I come running up the stairs and like, I don't know if I missed a step, and then you hear boom, 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 and you see Vin like look to the side, and then I come in, I'm like, oh my gosh, because it hurt so badly, and the nail was all bent up. And I think to myself, if I knew that was going to happen right before it happened, and I literally had to think through, okay, when you go up those stairs, you have to fall and rip your nail up. Like, it's so disgusting to have to think. It happens so fast you don't realize it, and then all of a sudden the event is over. But if you knew it was going to happen, how much more horrible would the events be if you knew right before it happened it was going to happen? Yeah,
if you knew all the evil shit that was going to happen. It would suck.
If you were always enlightened. So then I'm like, so how is that if you're God? Because, like you said, you said this happened on a Saturday? 9/11 happened on a Saturday?
No, I think Tuesday.
Oh, I thought you said a Friday night. So, you said the 10th. So if on the 10th, God knows it's going to happen on the 11th, it's like, that must be so weird.
Yeah, of course, the question underneath all that is, well, why didn't you do something to stop it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. But that's why, and one answer is that sorrow is a gift.
Yep.
That's why he sarcastically adds a gift to add on to your pain and suffering.
Yeah.
Because this is called a theodicy, a defense of God. Like, if there's so much suffering in the world and God is omniscient and omnipotent,
yeah,
then how the fuck does this shit happen?
Yes, and I think that, remember we were talking and you were saying how, this is again Jordan Peterson, but he had said, remember you were talking about when he was saying, how do we know that horrible events aren't as a result of our sinful behaviors? Right. Can you explain that to the nice people? I think that was a very good point.
Well, he's talking about New Orleans and the levees and
yes.
all of that, and the knowing where they were sea level wise, and knowing that there needed to be money funneled to that to shore those up, but you had fucked up corrupt politicians.
Right. Because there's another one that was built and they like made it so it could withstand any storm that happened within the last 1,000 years.
In Holland, 10,000 years.
10,000 years. But then this one they only did it the last 1,000 years.
Last 100 years.
The last 100 years.
Worst storm in 100 years, yeah.
So the money was supposed to be funneled there, but people were lying in their pocket.
Yeah,
right.
So like natural disaster conspire with human evil to create that type of cataclysmic flood. Of course, right. 9/11 is very, very similar. you have a guy like Bin Laden, but we have unyielding support for the state of Israel that has participated in some serious atrocities of the Palestinian people. And we support Israel, whether Democrat or Republican. We support them across the board, and they've done some really evil shit. And so on top of that, and of course the Palestinians have fought back in ways that we don't think follow the path of Christ. The blowing yourself up on a bus or whatever, it doesn't follow the path of Christ.
No.
But setting up these horrible checkpoints with a 18-year-old kid
Slapping that old man.
slapping around a 65-year-old man, which we've seen. We've seen it.
Right.
There's no look. I don't have a. Let's not have a simplistic view of the world. Like, I'm not saying there's a pure Palestinian and a dirty Israeli. What I'm saying is the Israelis have inordinate power in that area, largely because of our unilateral support of them, and there is very little accountability that could be had in that context when the lone superpower in the world is supporting your state. And then you have Hamas, and sometimes Hezbollah comes around and does, things that are not according to the way of Christ from our perspective that create. But anyway, so there's that. There's the United States going, we never left Kuwait. After Desert Storm. Well, we've done a whole bunch of shit in the Arab world that we've taken little responsibility for, and so 9/11 was a conspiring of all of that. Even if you think 9/11 was an inside job, it still had to do with human sinfulness.
Yeah.
I mean, either way, it's our power grabbing, it's our lust for power.
Yeah. You know what's weird too? And I don't know, maybe this is like such a weird thought that maybe it makes no sense to anybody, but it makes sense in my own head. Ants, if they were like, have you ever seen those studies? It's totally disgusting, but if they were like on top of the ground rather than under the ground, like they would be like, just all over the place. But like ants, they find a way to create their own little colonies without, like, I guess wrecking they all have their own spot, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, they don't fight over the same piece, you're there and they're, to my understanding anyway.
Right.
And so it's like, what is it in human nature that, like, makes us make a stake on something and say, this belongs to me? And then if you know what I mean? Like, I'm saying if you're coming from our worldview where God gives us the whole earth and he tells us to be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth, so we're supposed to spread out and take over the whole earth. We're not supposed to be fighting over the same piece of lands all the time and then killing each other and doing all this. It's almost like, and maybe I'm just looking at it too simplistically, but it's so immature in a sense that we have to kill each other. Or like if you just pull back and think about it, it's land. And we'll take it from each other.
Well, it's land and ideology. A lot of this is ideology. So, like, for example, that communist guy that's talking about killing millions of capitalists. That's his ideology.
Yes, but isn't that coming down to? Does his come down to that? The overpopulation of the planet.
No, he's saying that we need to forcefully redistribute the wealth of the 1%, and they're not going to give that up voluntarily.
Yeah.
So now you should go and kill people and kill cops because the police are wedded to the capitalist system. And on the recording, you can hear it. He's saying, kill cops. But he basically said,
I'm not going to come right out and say that.
I can't come out and say kill cops because I'll get in trouble. But then he basically throws down the ratchet and says, who's going to pick up the gun?
Yeah.
So a lot of people die due to land. A lot of people died fucked up ideology. But at the end of the day, it's human sinfulness.
Yeah.
And so I agree with Peterson in the sense that, because he was talking about the flood, and he was saying that, in the Old Testament narrative, the flood is as a consequence of human sinfulness.
Yeah.
And you have a lot of even modern, Darwinian naturalist people that say there's some sort of global disaster that happened, that, some sort of catastrophe that I even had a guy on in our comment section say, but they said it's completely natural, has nothing to do with any, divine intervention. And Peterson's argument was, how do you know it wasn't both?
Yeah.
In the sense of human
like
sinfulness, because even in the Old Testament, in the flood narrative, it doesn't just say God said hocus pocus.
No.
It says the floods of the great deep and the windows of heaven open, and
Yes.
there are natural processes that. But you know, when you think about 9/11, all that being considered, even if you say, okay, 9/11 is a result of human sinfulness, and you know, just to say, I had an aunt die in 9/11, I'm not justifying Ben Lyon's actions. I'm simply saying there are things that created the type of invective that would drive a person to do the shit that these people did. But a person could simply argue, okay, fine, humans are screwed up, but why didn't God stop it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it says another nightmare about to come true. Another taste of the evil I breed will level you completely.
Whoa.
Bring to life everything that you fear, live in the dark, and the world is threatening. So he's saying that God is breeding the evil. And, you know, that's his perspective. His perspective is that God is breeding all this evil and brought all this disaster into the world. Right? And of course, now at this point, I'm supposed to say, God doesn't breed evil at all. We do that, and God gave us free will. You know, but Amos 3 says, has disaster happened in the city and the Lord not done it?
Right.
You know, I, the Lord, you know, he creates light and darkness. I form good, I form evil.
Yep.
The Hebrew word for evil is ra, which can mean moral evil. A lot of times it means disaster. But again, to quote Jordan Peterson, many times disaster still encompasses some form of moral evil.
Yeah.
So you have passages in the scripture that explicitly say, has disaster happened in the city and the Lord not done it?
Right. Yeah.
Well, Manhattan was a city.
Yep.
A disaster happened. My aunt died along with 3,000 other people. So, you know, there's pop Christian psychology or whatever where I'm supposed to say, no, God doesn't have anything to do with evil.
Yeah.
But, you know, I can't say that and hold to any sort of biblical fidelity.
Yep.
So there's another answer.
It's interesting too because you know how like some people will be like, well, they were in the garden and then they were told that, you know, we're talking about Adam and Eve, that they were in the garden and they were told that if they ate from the tree that they would surely die.
Right.
And then they ate from the tree and then they end up walking out of the garden. So like, where's the death? But then we see that as a result of that, like everything that's happened over the planet, it's been death after death after death after death. And it's been on, you know, micro and macro levels of death when it's just like, you know, a person dying to like thousands, millions, billions of people dying from the effects of us, I don't know, I guess you could say choosing our own path that is separate from the path that God would desire of us. Because we were supposed to live, we were supposed to enjoy life, we were supposed to have children, we were supposed to have fun. And like, it's funny because, you know, like, and man, maybe I'm just throwing everything out tonight, but like, so of course when I was growing up, you know, the big thing was like nobody was supposed to drink alcohol. Like that's like really bad. And I thought it even said that in the Bible. And then like, I remember like when I found out that it said that God made wine to make the heart of man glad. And it was so confusing to me because I was like, well, no, that's like a big sin, but then he's wanting people to be glad because of it. Like,
I remember that.
It was so weird. But then like, so now, like, you know, when I tip back on mics and I'm just enjoying it, I'm like, so God, like, made this because because I feel a little bit happy, you know, like, when I have it and stuff.
So do I.
Yeah, anyway,
I do.
So, it's like, I don't know, like God wants us to be happy. He wanted things to go, you know, whatever, but, you know, there was another alternate plan. That, because we don't say that, oh, like God had this plan and then all of a sudden like people took from the tree and then all of a sudden God was like, shoot, I gotta come up with a plan B. Like this was, you know, God's plan all along. Back to your point. So it's like, how does that, because we always want to like just take God off the hook and be like, oh no, you know, like.
Yeah, it's interesting. Christians definitely like, we come up with all these like weird explanations to try to take God off the hook. When our atheist friends are reading the Bible, and like I said in the discussion, I believe that you can understand the original intent of the scripture. So when an atheist comes to you and says, look, Amos 3 says, has disaster happened in the city and the Lord not done it?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to insult the guy's intelligence and make up some, you know, that's what it says. That's what it means. Because to the Hebrew writers, if God was omniscient and omnipotent, and then something happened, that means at some level it was God's will that the thing happened.
Right.
Otherwise, it couldn't happen.
Right.
So I think we have to be honest with that. And you know.
I mean, God doesn't hide it. But
yeah, God doesn't. He's pretty much out there going, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have some people that are very close to me, and they have this illness or this disease or whatever you want to call it, where they most likely die before they're 15 years old. And you know, there's both of them, like both children in the family this is happening to. It's like a painful, terrible thing, and I hate it. And when I think like God is behind that, like he could easily fix that, and he's not.
Right, and just to be clear, I'm not saying that God struck those people with disease. Because, for example, Satan in Job is blamed for striking Job's family with disease.
Uh-huh.
But God is held responsible in the sense that obviously somewhere it was God's will for Job to endure that suffering, right?
Yep.
So the direct actor is the devil or whoever you want to say. But the Bible doesn't never. I like your phrase. Let's get off the hook for those situations, and that's why the concept of Jesus being God in the flesh is so important to me. Because if you look at the end of the book of Job, God never says, "All right, Job, here's the explanation for why."
Wait, I'm sorry, because you don't forget your thoughts. I'm gonna forget mine. So you know when we talk about like corporate responsibility for whatever, like that we get that from God, right? Because He takes responsibility for what's happening on the planet.
Well, no, I don't think that's the same thing, because we're actually guilty.
Yeah.
As a whole, where God is guilty of nothing.
Oh, yeah.
So when I say we take responsibility, it's like we're taking part in
guilt,
in corporate guilt, which is antithetical to what everybody believes. I think we're the only two people that believe in collective guilt.
Yeah. Oh, collective. That's the word. Collective guilt.
Even Jordan Peterson can't stand that concept. He can't stand it. But I'm on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, and I will eventually, inshallah, when I get to talk to him. Well, because he saw what a bad form of collectivism did in communist Russia. You were part of the rich people, so we're going to kill you no matter what you did as an individual.
Oh.
But to the other point of like, God never, so Job goes through all this terrible shit, and then God shows up to him and doesn't answer any of Job's questions.
Yep.
And he basically says, hey, Job, where were you when I created the world? And then he just goes on and has this amazing discussion. Mm-hmm. But it's a series of questions that Job can't answer.
Yeah.
And the point is, maybe there's things I know you don't know.
Yeah.
How about that? Maybe there's things I know. Of course, Job didn't know, hey, you're going to be in the Bible.
Right.
You're going to make the Bible. And you're going to inspire...
billions of people have been inspired by that story.
Billions of people. And you're going to help people suffer well. And Vin and Sori are going to talk. He didn't know all that shit.
Right.
All he knew that he was in a ton of pain.
Yeah.
And that's all he could see. And then God showed up and didn't say anything about anything that happened. And of course, at the end of the book, Job says, I've heard of you with the ear.
Yeah.
But now my eyes see you.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And I have a clearer vision of God.
Right.
And I think, to me, that's the ultimate question. What is good?
Yeah, and it says in James that God was merciful to him.
Right.
And good, I think.
Compassionate.
And compassionate, yeah. And you're like, what the heck? Like, he lost everything. How is God compassionate? How is God good? But then when Job says, look, before I just heard about you, but now my eye sees you. Like, to see God and to know God is like...
That's it.
That's it. Like...
That's ultimate good. And you know, the
not as a concept, though. Like, not seeing God as a concept.
Reality.
But actually really realizing Him
Ultimate
and understanding
reality.
Him, you know? Like, our daughter, she was like... she's like 11 years old, you know, and she's gone through a lot in her small life, you know, and she's like, she showed me a song today that she's been listening to. She kept asking me, can you listen to this Danny Goki song, Masterpiece? Danny Goki, Masterpiece, please, Mom, can we listen? Finally, I'm like, fine, I'll put it on. You know what, to be honest with you, Danny Goki, the name sounded stupid, so I just felt like the song was gonna be ridiculous. So I put it on, and it wasn't necessarily my thing, but I started crying because he was talking, as he was singing, like, he was talking about how God was like making a masterpiece out of everything, but at that point, like, why am I still in this painful state? Why am I still in this place, you know? And she has a lot of things that she misses and a lot of, you know, pain that she's been through. And so I don't know, like, it was just cool to see. But she takes our iPad and she goes out, you know, towards the trees, and she just, you know, sings to God. And she has experiences with God, and it's not just theories or something that's in her mind, you know what I mean? Like, she's having an actual experience with God. Yeah, and it's helping her work through the pain and the things that she's been going through, even in her life. So I'm like, wow, like, she sounded so mature when she was talking about it and stuff for someone so young, you know, but she's understanding now that things will happen to you in life, and pain will come, but that God is the one that can carry you through that. I know it sounds really preachy right now, but it was just, I don't know, it was a really cool experience.
Well, the interesting thing is, I'm sure people perceive us to be people that, like, when we're not doing this, we're opening the Bible with our kids. We're fucking terrible Christian parents right now.
Yeah, no, it's totally true. It's totally true.
Some of this is by way of confession, and some of this is just...
Yeah, no, you're right.
Just me being like, whoa, like, she's really carving out her own faith, her own walk. I'm not influencing that shit at all.
Yeah.
Right now. I mean,
our younger daughter was like, when is she gonna come back in? Because she was like, for hours out there just singing to God and praying. I'm like, you gotta let her do her thing, man, you know?
Yeah.
Like, she's 11, and she, you know, she has video games, she's got water fights, there's all these things that she can be doing, but she's out there singing because it's not just, you know, a thing in her mind where she's like, I'm hoping that she's like having experiences with God.
Right. And then, you know, I've been in terrible situations where, you know, I've had revelation. Well, it's interesting, you know, you have, like, you know, I'm gonna get really funky here and make a sharp right turn, but you have these people that go through these DMT trips.
Yeah. That was a sharp right turn. Okay.
And they will tell you, look, it was traumatic. I don't know if I'll ever do it again.
Yeah.
Because it's extremely traumatic.
Yeah.
But they all say, man, that experience, though, whoo.
Yeah.
I think there's a lesson there. I think people are saying, I don't want trauma, so, you know,
I'm gonna avoid that.
I'm going to avoid it. But the trauma that I did experience, to have that experience of some sort of alternate reality outside of this world, was worth it.
Yeah.
And so I think, you know, the from a biblical perspective, God doesn't use DMT most of the time. He uses this stuff to get us to those states.
Right.
And of course, one of the main themes is that God does speak in one way, and in two, though man does not perceive it.
Right. In the dreams, yeah.
You know, people, where's God? And prove God. And he's like, I'm talking to you. Hello.
In multiple ways.
A lot of different ways that he
One of the
speaks.
ways is Vin and Sori's channel.
But incidentally, but a lot of it is suffering. And of course, when you talk about collective guilt, you know, I said God's never guilty.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is the Christian narrative has something very unique to it, which is that God came in the person of Jesus and absorbed the guilt.
Right.
And felt meaningless, purposeless, terrible suffering on the cross.
Right.
You know, like, and the cross really functions a lot in my life, and I funnel a lot of my own pain and suffering through the cross. And we're, you know, talking about being abandoned, being betrayed, all those things like coalesce together to put Jesus on the cross. And, you know, that's the ultimate. You get to a point where you don't need explanations anymore. When you see that, you go, okay, everybody's going to go through a crucifixion. Mm-hmm. And God himself endured that. Mm-hmm. And so now there's a way to kill suffering, put it in the ground, and rise to new humanity, right? And that's a story that we've very conveniently got caught up in.
Yeah.
Because it's a good story.
Right.
It combine. You got to have something that toes the line between realism and hope.
Yeah.
And that's how you avoid, you know, childish optimism and jaded pessimism. Is realism with hope, mm-hmm. and that's what you have.
Yep.
And so this, if you look at the song, is a chapter and a journey toward that. And I think this is a realistic way of how a human being processes terrible events like 9/11, mm-hmm. which changed my life forever mm-hmm. in a bunch of different ways. Mm-hmm. So I think it's an amazing song, like lyrically, what this guy did.
Yeah.
He says, return to me, leave me no one. Who do you think is talking there, him or God? Return to me, turn to me, leave me no one. Return to me, return to me, return to me. You've made me turn away. Then he says, cast aside.
I think it's him. I think it's him talking.
I think it's a back and forth. I think God is saying, return to me. And he's saying, you left me nobody. And then he says, you've made me turn away. God made him turn away.
And that's the
because
end?
of all the, and that, well, then he goes back to the chorus.
Whoa.
So that's pretty much it. I mean, of course, this is not a concept album, but a thematic album, I guess, is the, like, Paolo from Trivia
And it's about believing? Believe?
Yeah, the name of the record is Believe, and then you see, like a Star of David, there's a cross in the middle,
like
there's
a
a
pentagram,
crescent,
maybe.
the crescent for Islam.
Yeah.
And then there's a pentagram, probably, right?
Because it kind of looks like a circle like that, and then you see another star in it.
So it's kind of like, maybe it's
Did you
kinda
see
like,
the last song is called Darkness?
Yeah. I mean, the issue doesn't get resolved for him.
Yeah, it seems that
I mean, maybe we're making an assumption. Darkness could be a very extremely positive song. I overcame the darkness. Who knows, you know?
True. Yep, that's true.
So anyway, it looks at minimum to be an album that's themed around belief. But anyway, very, very honest.
A very important song, I think.
An important song.
Yeah, and I think that this is important. See, now, for myself, I want to give it a 10 because I really, really liked it, and I think the theme is really, really good. I'm just not sure if it's a 10. Maybe it's a 9 or 9.5. But I don't know, because I think that this theme, you can kind of put it anywhere in time, and it's an important thing, because you go all the way back to Job and he was having this issue, and it's probably going to continue throughout the rest of history.
It'll always continue until the millennium hits.
Okay, I think I have to give it a 10. I really, really liked it.
It's an 8 for me.
I'm gonna play that.
It's a good.
I'm gonna go running.
It's a good song. It's a strong song. I just think the musicianship was just very, very basic.
Oh, I felt it inside. I liked it. Just play that basic shit for me.
But I mean,
I'll be happy.
it's new metal, so I mean.
Oh, this is new metal?
Yeah, I mean that's Disturbed.
But I feel like that I don't usually like new metal, right?
No, you don't usually like new metal. But I think you like his voice. I
do, but I liked the music too.
And I think you're probably the typical Disturbed fan, and I don't mean that in a bad sense. I think he really carries the band a lot.
Yeah.
Because if it wasn't for him, there'd be a lot of generic.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I don't know if I would like it if it wasn't. I really like his voice.
I don't.
I appreciate a good voice.
Yeah, I can't say.
But it's funny because it's very interesting because a lot of times with the female voices, I like it when they sound kind of crazy. But his voice isn't crazy sounding.
Good song.
Oh, okay. Well.
Been out. Gone.